My name is Mattias Waldkirch and I'm a researcher at Jönköping International Business School, and I'm very happy that you seem to be interested in our work. We've been doing this article on non-family CEOs in family firms together with Professor Mattias Nordqvist and Professor Leif Melin from Jönköping International Business School in Sweden. So the main topic really, and why we started studying this, has been our interest in finding out how family firms can work with non-family members in their management. Because oftentimes there is no successor, successors are maybe not ready or maybe don't want to work in the business, but family firms still want to keep the ownership in their own business. So oftentimes they take external people into the company. What we also see, unfortunately, is that oftentimes this doesn't really work out well. So oftentimes there are conflicts between the family and the non-family managers, which oftentimes result in people leaving the organization after a short time and leaving the organization in quite a lot of distress. This was kind of our starting point. So when we went back to understand why people stay and why people leave organizations, we found that a lot of the arguments about this topic was really about instrumental factors such as payment, career advancement, and all these other things. And that one very core thing of why people stay has been somewhat overlooked, and that is relationships towards each other. So in our article, we study interactions between non-family CEOs and two generations in the business. So what we do is we build a triad between non-family CEOs, the current generation, and the next generation. And utilizing a social exchange approach, which looks at how people work with each other, what they do on an everyday basis, we try to understand in what kind of setup this relationship works and when it does not work. So what we find utilizing this approach is that these triads change over time, right? So family firms are all about timing, and relationships change in this timing. So oftentimes non-family CEOs are hired by the current generation and the next generation is still studying, for instance. But what happens, for instance, when the next generation then suddenly enters the business and also wants to be part of the management? We see that these transitions between stages, for instance, the current generation leaving, the next generation coming in, or the non-family CEO joining, are oftentimes especially problematic for how people interact with each other. And what we show is that if these interactions are not really, if people don't develop interactions with each other in a good way, it leads to negative emotions. So people get frustrated, people don't like working with each other anymore, and that's of course a problem because they are forced to work with each other. If you're a CEO in a family firm, you cannot escape the owners. So having a bad relationship with them is oftentimes a reason for leaving the business in the end. All these findings, in a sense, I think have a quite direct impact on everyday business life, because oftentimes if you get advice as a manager, it's about formal things. It's about things you should do, things to implement in your business, lean methods, etc. So especially also through headhunters, you oftentimes look for these formal qualifications. What we highlight is the importance of designing and developing relationships over time and not seeing them as fixed, as, you know, we have a relationship now, it works, and it will work like this all the time. So what we propose is that, especially in these triads, different type of exchanges work for different positions. For instance, if a new generation comes in, it's important not to overburden them with too many expectations in the interactions. So meaning that a CEO cannot expect as much from this next generation as it can from the current generation. What we find through this is that if these relationship works, it's much more likely that CEOs will stay longer in the business, which in the end is good for the firm because there's less disruption, coordination is upheld, and in the end, this is exactly what family firms want. They want a stable business, and they don't want this kind of crisis in management every 2 years. So in that sense, I believe that our research has very important practical implications. And if you click down there, you can read more and more specific parts of our argumentation. Thank you very much for watching.